guys, how are you? My name is Marcelo Walter and I am from Objective Company. This is our first session of this limited series about deep testing beyond the basics of automated tests. The company's objective and Nubank invite you to some interviews and talks about deep knowledge of tests and automation. To start, here with me, we have maybe the two biggest guys when the subject is software quality, Klaus Wuestefeld and Alex Freire. They will be the hosts of this series. Nice to have you here, guys. Please introduce yourself and talk something about what the audience can expect from this series.
Alex, you go first, please.
Yeah, in alphabetic order.
I'm Alex Freire. I'm a director of engineering at Nubank, a big fintech here in Brazil, the biggest outside of Asia in the world, actually. Automated testing beyond the basics. So it's testing is something that I've always enjoyed. You know, that feeling of being able to break something or find flaws, and it's something that I like. And I think ever since I fell in love with TDD and really understood the power of using tests to guide my development, I've also explored the fringes of what automated testing can be like in software engineering, and really happy with how we try to apply that within Nubank. So going beyond the basics sometimes, and excited to be here and to share some of this content and our guests with all of you. So very happy to be a part of this limited series and hoping to have some very interesting conversations today in the coming episodes.
Nice, let's go in Portuguese.
Thank you, Marcelo, for the invitation. My name is Klaus. I'm a founding partner at Objective. I'm a software quality consultant for Nubank. I started programming when I was 10 on this machine. It's a ZX81 clone.
Wow.
See, it had 2 kilobytes of RAM and a 16K expansion here. Of course, I wasn't doing automated testing at the time, but I started hearing about automated testing in 97, 96, when Scott Ambler came to audit a system of ours, and he said, "Hey, Klaus, have you heard of writing code that tests itself?" And the name didn't even exist. There were no frameworks, maybe the Smalltalk framework, but he said, it's an idea of code that tests itself. And I said, oh, interesting, but he couldn't even give me an example. And then we went on to write our own framework for Smalltalk and for Java, even before JUnit existed. And to me, automated tests, working, if you're developing software and you're testing it manually, to me, that's anti-ethical nowadays. It's like a doctor that is performing surgery without turning on the equipment, the monitors, right? The oxygen monitor, the heart monitor. So you're wasting your own money, you're wasting the team's time, you're wasting your client's time, and you're putting bugs into production which are unnecessary. So to me, automated testing nowadays is even an ethical thing, right? It's not okay to rely primarily on manual testing nowadays.
Nice, big stories, nice stories. Well, let me ask first maybe a question. Klaus told us that he are listening about automated testing 20 years ago, right, or more. And Nubank in Objective are two companies that we work with automated testing a lot in all of our software development. But why the 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 companies still doesn't apply automated testing in the jobs? What happens?
Is this something you observe, Marcelo, that many companies don't apply automated testing yet?
Exactly. I am trying to. I am doing some consultant in some small companies, some medium and big companies, some startups, and some old companies, and it's. I think that 80 or 90 percent of companies doesn't work with automated tests.
Wow, that's a lot. So
Yeah, exactly.
I've been out of consulting for 3 years now, but previously when I was in Industrial Logic, it was similar. We were brought in to teach folks and working with software engineers that had been in the industry for 20, 30 years, and it would be the first time that they would hear of this type of technique, right? Now, look, there's a framework where you can write code that exercises your production code, and where you can assert some, things about it and see if you're on track. I think that it comes down to a bit of an educational issue, right? So I'm very happy. I mean, I today on Twitter, I see some of the newcomers to the industry talking about automated testing, right? So the awareness certainly is bigger, I would say. But if we look at like the academy, right? I didn't learn to write automated tests in my computer science graduation. I learned it in an elective, and because I was like reading Kent Beck's, extreme programming book, like, whoa, this is interesting. TDD, okay, wow, let's go. Wow, look, JUnit, wow, this is so cool. And then, looking at some of the unit testing tools in Smalltalk, and it's like, wow, this is better than a debugger, right? In fact, one of the ways that we would pitch this back in Industrial Logic, it was just taking a popular song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, and we had a parody, it was 50 Ways to Leave Your Debugger. It was all about micro testing and being able to have those fast feedback cycles with this type of tool. But I guess the other thing I'd say, Marcelo, is there's this split, right? That's very common between who comes up with the requirements, business analysts, right? And then who kind of like gets them to the computers or into some type of language the computers can understand, the programmers, and then there are the folks that test it, the testers, and then there's the folks that maintain that in production operations, right? So I think that fundamental split, which I disagree with, might be one of the reasons why automated testing isn't as popular, because a lot of software engineers are like, oh wait, that's not my job. I throw it down, the testers find my bugs, they come back to me. And a lot of these folks in tester roles, they might do some automation, but they still kind of run those tests manually, right? So it's not integrated into continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline or anything like that. They might have learned of, Selenium or tools that allow you to do mostly black box style testing, right? Look at the system. Record, playback, kind of through the user interface, slow feedback cycles. But it's what they have. This is some of the tooling that they understand. So that would be my take as to why 20 years later this isn't a widely adopted technique yet.
Yeah. First of all, there are two investments that people have to make to work with automated tests. The first one is a long-term, is a very expensive investment and a long-term investment, which is learning the testing techniques, right? It isn't something that comes immediately and naturally, right? And the second one is the small-term investment. Every time I'm going to work with code, I have to write a little test, and I have to keep this investment and this upkeep. And especially in the beginning, people, if they aren't used to writing tests, this small investment is actually significant, because I can write this code in half an hour. If I have to write the test together with it and I don't know testing, it'll take me 2 days maybe, So it's a significant investment in the beginning. And you sort of have to will your architecture. You sort of have to force the testing way of doing things retroactively onto like Java, for example. Our environments, they aren't testable. The languages, they aren't built to be testable. If you use Java new date, for example, to get to the current time or system current time millis,
you can't test it.
You can't test it, right? If you use the natural, the native way of getting the time, so you have to have a fake, like a clock interface that you can mock and you can fake, so your test can run. And that is all over the place. You have to have your business logic separate from your interface logic. So it requires a certain concern with architecture and design, and it isn't something that comes naturally, right? When you're learning JavaScript, let me just put copy and paste some JavaScript into this page and we're done, right?
Yeah, most of the existing systems weren't designed for testability, right? So just like, how am I gonna even start? This reminds me of Beck's 4 rules of simple design, right? Which the first rule is, does it pass all the tests? And then it reviews intention, there's no duplication, there are few elements. And I guess another insight I had when we're speaking is the bar for quality in our industry is just so low, right? Our bugs are famous. It's like the bug of the millennium. Everybody expects computers not to work and software to kind of suck. And it's like, have you tried turning it on and off again? So it's like our customers are used to such low quality that why should I learn automated testing? My customers can test for me. They'll let me know the bugs, we'll kind of iterate and hopefully if it's not mission critical or systems that are costing folks lives, it's like, imagine if every other building, there's a whole floor you can't get to because the elevator doesn't stop there. Oh no, we've known that for a while. Maybe next year we'll fix it.
Yeah, running software in production is so valuable that even buggy software is valuable for businesses in production.
And folks find ways to work around the bugs too, right? Our users figure it out, reverse engineer, and can still do their work despite our efforts.
But from what I understand, Marcelo, this series isn't exactly an introduction to tests, right? We're talking about like introductory things, but from what I understand, we want to go beyond these introductory topics.
That's the idea. In this series, we will talk about some advanced topics. So we want to say about the test framework, creating testing framework, about microservices, about mutating testing, generating generative is it correct? Generative tests and so on. So what more?
The limits of automated testing in production, automated testing in production.
Well, you, Klaus and Freire, you will conduce this series.
We will be the hosts.
Yeah, exactly. So who will you invite to the series?
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to bring some of our engineers from Nubank that have been like passionate about some of this stuff. So we have folks thinking through, could we test in production, right? There are of course some limitations. I mean, I can't really have fake data in production. I'm a bank. It's a regulated environment. The central bank would not like for us to have a test account where I can move real money in a production environment. So there are some things there that are harder to do. But I mean, luckily, all of our employees are also customers. So we can do releases to our employees first. That's manual testing and exploratory testing, though. How would we be able to achieve that? And more coverage, automated coverage would be really interesting. And I think we have somebody that's been thinking about that for a while. We've had people that built their own automated testing frameworks as well. Nubank uses Clojure as our primary programming language, and we've helped evolve those tools. We've been involved in the maintenance and creation of them. And I think we also have some interesting people doing tests in mobile applications, for example, where we might learn a few things there about the differences. And also, I think one of the things that's really helped us is having a few defaults and standards in how we build and code. So we have a microservices architecture with very strict kind of guidelines. This is how you do things that make it a lot easier for us to test, and allowed us to do some things that are not very common, right? So we don't have an end-to-end testing environment anymore. Actually, I'm proud of having been a part of killing our end-to-end testing suite, because it was just so slow and painful. It was growing and growing, and at one point we're like, oh my God, this will never stop. We'll get to a point where we'll never get that feedback, and we're able to find other ways of keeping the quality high and keeping testing interesting. So one of the things that we applied was a contract testing framework between our microservices. So at least I guarantee that the dependencies are mapped, and if a team here changes their contract, another team will have a chance to update their stuff while things break in our staging environment or in our integration pipelines, but not having to rely with slow end-to-end big testing suites to guarantee quality.
I'm going to invite some of my partners at Objective who wrote the first testing frameworks back then. One of our partners wrote an entire language, an object query language that would run against the database and against objects in memory, so we can run system tests without the database, just with the objects in memory. I want to invite a guy who's working on a system, a kind of software that we spent hours discussing, and he convinced me that it's impossible to test automatically. So I want him to bring this experience. Yeah, very, very interesting. I want to bring the person leading our DevOps projects, and talk about the importance of DevOps and having continuous deployment and tests there.
In fact, I think that's one sentence that we can affirm that there is no DevOps without automating testing, right?
Sure. Yeah, manual DevOps would be fun. Yeah. And at Objective, our largest system has tens of developers working on the same code base, on the same repository. It was hundreds at some point. And at every commit, every engineer that would commit once, twice, 3 times a day, we would open 30 machines at Amazon. We would start 30 machines, run the complete test, and in half an hour he would have the feedback. So we would have hundreds of machines running on Amazon all the time to have like a golden trunk, right? Continuous integration scheme. Maybe we can talk about this too.
Nice, very good. So I think that everybody can expect a high quality service, right? With these two monsters of quality, talking and asking for some really specialists for both companies, and yeah, this will be very nice.
I think our guests are going to be the stars of the limited series. We'll just be poking around.
Yep.
Okay, let's go. See you guys in next series. See you guys in next
Do we know?
sessions.
Do we know what the first episode is going to be?
No, we need to
Not yet. Okay.
we need to define.
Okay. Cool. See you guys.
See
Bye
you.
bye.